Hello, this is Matthew Chan. Welcome to the new episode of Courtroom Strategy with Oscar Michelen. And I'm glad you've joined us because we're talking about a very timely news topic, and that is the death of bin Laden. So, Oscar, I guess what started this is you put a little Facebook post and you made some sort of wise trick. Yes. What was your little comment that generated so much commentary?
My comment was that the CIA revealed that, in fact, bin Laden wasn't armed, and it said, but, however, he did resist, and that's why he had to be shot. So I said, how did he resist? He put his hands up and said, please don't shoot me? I mean, it didn't make any sense to me. I meant it as a joke, but many of my Facebook friends, didn't take it as a joke and, started questioning, I guess, my patriotism and whether I sincerely, could I really be, one of those attorneys who thinks we should have brought bin Laden back to trial. And so I thought about it for about a half a second, and I realized that, holy cow, I am one of those attorneys who thinks that we should have brought bin Laden back. I couldn't believe it about myself.
And you admitted to it publicly, which generated even more comments. And I fought so hard not getting in there. I really wanted to say something.
Yeah.
But I fought that urge. I really didn't want to say.
It's a very difficult topic. It really is. First of all, my original post that I was going to put up was when the president called me and asked me what I wanted on my birthday, I didn't think he would take me seriously. Because bin Laden was killed on my birthday.
Oh, really?
I turned 50. I turned 5-1 on 5-1. I was 51 on 50. Thank you. So, you know why I didn't post it? Because I wouldn't want the president to have executed bin Laden. I would have wanted the president to have caught and brought bin Laden back. I said, I'm not going to post it because that's not how I feel. And I wasn't going to post anything. And I didn't say anything at all. And, as someone who, and here's my legal disclaimer. Okay, let me put the legal disclaimer on here before people start, writing me, defriending me, not following my blog, not following my law firm, not doing anything to do with me.
Your blog is what's going to end up happening.
Pretty much I go to 9/11, to ground zero every 9/11 because I lost three very good friends, three friends that I knew for a good period of time at 9/11. Recently lost another friend who had brain cancer since 9/11. It was never right. A financial guy, a wonderful guy who was never the same after 9/11 and, ended up having brain cancer and passing away last year or so. And,
you are from New York.
I'm from New York.
You're not very far away.
Everybody in New York knows somebody or knows somebody who knows somebody. My wife's cousin was one of the few firefighters who was pulled out of the rubble alive. He was trapped under the rubble with his battalion chief and by miracle was found and had the rubble removed and, was brought alive out of the rubble, one of the very few guys, and has been on the cover of newspapers and things like that. We know people who are on the covers of Time magazine who were covered in soot. I worked for many years at the World Trade Center. Before my father retired, his office was on the 44th floor of the World Trade Center. So I worked as a messenger there. I worked as a busboy there. I played wiffle ball for money on one of the uncompleted floors against the construction workers there. My dad and I were there when the guy climbed up on the outside of it. We were there when Philippe Petit walked in between the two World Trade Centers. So we have a lot of connection to that building, and it really, really devastated me and my family personally, as well as my city. Downtown is really where my wife and I have a lot of connection to, and so believe me, I mourned not a moment for the death of Osama bin Laden. Okay, I shed no tears for him.
Right.
I did shed some tears for the rule of law, but I did not shed any tears for Osama bin Laden. I could care less that he's no longer on the face of the earth. And I think that the way the president just had his body disposed of was a very good idea. I don't think we should have built a shrine for him or buried him. And I don't think we should release the photos. So I agree with all of that. What I'm upset about is, why we could get the story right the first time. Why do we need to hear that it was a firefight and he used his wife as a human shield, and we had to kill his wife because bin Laden shot at our guys and then used his wife as a human shield? I mean, what could be lower? I guess his children weren't, killed, so we couldn't say he used his children. And then, not even 24 hours later, it's like, well, we didn't really,
the facts
we didn't really have to shoot his wife's still alive. It's some other woman, and we didn't use him as a human shield. Oh, and by the way, he wasn't armed, but it was a real firefight in there. And then it became, well, it wasn't really so much as a firefight. It was one guy with a gun. And, but he resisted, which, was the joke came up. And that's where I lost it. I'm like, come on, man, can't we just get the truth? We would be behind you 100%. Just tell us what happened. You decided to execute him? Okay, I'm not for that. But the majority of the country wouldn't care that we made a decision to go, in there and kill him, regardless of whether he was armed, unarmed, or whatever. Certainly, you can make a legal case, for it, because we basically, he's not on American soil. That's the most popular argument. He's not on American soil, so the Constitution doesn't apply to him. I guess if I was to represent the government on this, I could come up with a pretty cogent legal argument why we would have the right to do what we did. That's not the point.
Well, I am like many people. I'm pretty happy he got taken out, and I've had time to digest it. And had he been kept around alive, there would have been a swirl of legal issues. There would just be no end to this. Just no end to this. So on a personal level, I definitely am pro, just knock him off, and it's way simpler. But you made the argument, you made a different argument that it wasn't so much what your personal feelings are, it was more the principle of it,
Well, yeah.
So won't you elaborate a little bit? Elaborate on that, please.
Well, what you just basically said is what we call law, okay? Law is the codification of punishment and rules so that we don't just, rely upon our baser instincts, okay? When somebody cuts me off on the road, I want to get out and crack his head up against the front windshield. All right? That's what I'd like to do, okay? If someone were to, God forbid, attack a member of my family, I'm not calling the police, okay? Yeah. But that's not law. That's the idea of it. When Mario Cuomo, who's an idol of mine,
is that right?
was governor of New York State, he was adamantly against the death penalty, against every aspect of the death penalty under any circumstance whatsoever. And that's my feeling of the death penalty.
Wow, I never knew that, Oscar.
Yeah, listen, I've gotten wrongful guys out of prison who've been wrongfully convicted, even though they confessed, okay? And they were set up, and the minute you start doing that kind of work and you work in the criminal justice system at all, I don't know how anybody could be a criminal defense lawyer and be in favor of the death penalty under any circumstance. Because you can't just apply it to say, oh, I know this guy did it, let's kill him. It doesn't work that way. It has to be applied to everybody. So that means you're going to catch some innocent people. And even one mistake is inexcusable. But so any event, they asked Mario during a debate for governor. They said, well, what would happen if your wife was raped and then killed?
I know where he's going with this.
You'd want to kill that guy. And Mario, cool as a cucumber, said, of course I would want to kill him. But that doesn't mean the law, society should kill him. That's what law and society is for. It's to control our baser instincts and elevate our better instincts. It's to try to control our animalistic urges and to punish people when they act on their own animalistic urges as opposed to obeying the rule of law. So yes, personally, I would want to hunt that person down and do them harm. But I would hope that after that initial anger and loss of reason passed, I would see that the right thing to do would be to arrest him, fairly try him, and then give him the appropriate punishment as set by the legislature. And that's what I hope would be our better selves. That's what he said. I would hope we would rise to our better selves. And I already know. I can hear people moaning and throwing up, and I hear it. Or I know. I get it. I'm a namby-pamby, pinko, liberal, commie nut who cares more about the rights of the defendant than the rights of the victim. I can write the comments to it. I don't have to read the comments.
Well, let me jump in here. In Oscar's defense, I've gotten to know him pretty well, and Oscar,
literally in my defense.
Well, I mean, you're probably concerned, and I do want to say that, Oscar, you are a fighter, and you're from New York, and you can be a no-nonsense guy. I mean, and so I do think you have it within you, but I think the point you're trying to make is more, it's the principle of the thing more than your personal feelings. It's like we have two sides to us.
That's why we have law.
Yes.
We have our own personal selves who are also part of a governed society that's controlled by a rule of law. And the minute we start saying, except for that guy, okay? I'm reminded of, there's a funny scene in an Austin Powers movie where Austin Powers' father is dealing with this evil guy who happens to be Dutch. And the villain makes an offhanded comment about some other racial group. And Austin Powers' dad says, there's two types of people I can't stand. People who are intolerable of other people's culture and the Dutch. Okay? So, it's the same thing, which is all men are created equal and there should be entitled to due process of law. Well, except Osama bin Laden.
Well, the argument I would make is that when in a time of war, the rules are a little bit different. I mean, he was a war criminal, and he attacked and he killed 3,000 people.
So, wait a minute.
So
did we not have trials in Nuremberg for people who killed 10 million people, which were the Nazi officers? We didn't just line them up and show their SS uniforms and kill them. And it wasn't during an active period of war where they're shooting at us and we're shooting back. If bin Laden fired back, and I'm not saying we should be there and sacrifice our guys. 100% no. If that dude is anywhere near a gun, he's got a gun, he's pointing a gun, he gets killed. I didn't have a problem with that. It's when it started coming out that this was just essentially, invading a country and executing somebody who was unarmed. I just thought we're better than that. I just think we're better than that. I just think that our Constitution you're right, it doesn't apply outside of the country, but it should apply at all times to the actions of our country whether it's in our country or not. The Constitution should apply to America when it acts as America, wherever it is. It doesn't matter where. If it's an unconstitutional war in Vietnam, if it's an unconstitutional war in Iraq, wherever it is, we should be following the rules. And otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't, because somebody else can always come up with a rationalization for doing it to the next person. Okay, and how this one was easy. Osama bin Laden is easy. Okay, everybody but a crazy pinko lunatic constitutional communist like I am would say it's Osama bin Laden. Okay, I'll give you that one. What about a Mexican drug lord that's killed 20 people? What about a Mexican drug lord that's killed 250 people? Can we just go into Mexico, find him, and kill him without any trial? What about a guy who's maybe done some bioterror and poisoned the water and killed 500 people, in Copenhagen? Can we go there and kill him? What about
the answer is yes.
Right. You see?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
But my thing is, you got to be very certain. My fear would be that you got the wrong guy. That would be my concern.
So what would it take?
Osama bin Laden, I don't think there's too many people that would disagree he was the leader and cause it. I think
nobody.
Everyone agrees that he was the head guy that made all this happen. And
right.
There is no
so let's go back.
Doubt. There's no
all right.
doubt.
So then let's go back. So if that's the case, right? If it's so crystal clear, which I agree it is, by the way, okay? So then why on the same side are we saying, but it would take 4 months to try his case. He would have all these rights and all these appeals. Well, which is it? If it's a concrete case against him, and it's an open and shut case against him, can you explain to me why it would take $15 million to try him? Okay? Because we all know he's not going to be found not guilty. Even if we had no evidence, there's not 12 people on this planet who won't just say, yeah, come on. Let's get on with it. Yeah, I got it. Osama bin Laden, I got it. What else do we need? Okay? 2 days, put up a video, show the buildings burned down, put some CIA agents and some officers on there, get an informant out of Guantanamo. Okay, next. What's your defense?
Well,
he has no defense.
You got to remember, most people are not lawyers. Okay, can we agree on that?
Thank God. Thank God.
Can we agree that a lot of opinions are made by people that are not lawyers? So the lawyer community is actually very small in the great micro. It is a very small community, in the big scheme of things. And so the whole thing with the law is that people are fearful that there will be a technicality or something. Some creative lawyer would get him out of it. And that would just make people nuts. So
it would just make people nuts.
People would just have to go shoot themselves if people say, hey, you know what? He brought up a good point. He's going to live. He's innocent. That would you'd have.
He's not innocent. First of all, that would never happen. Okay, let's first understand what technicality would that possibly be? Except unless he said, by the way, unless bin Laden came forward and said, by the way, I could give you oil for free for the rest of the eternity. Then of course even America would say, yeah, he's not such a bad guy. But in any event, my point is, listen to what you just said. So you know what would suck? It would really suck if the Constitution worked for him. That's what you're saying. And that's my point. And when you say not everybody's a lawyer, I don't blame people for the emotional reaction.
Yeah.
I get that. I don't expect the guy who's a layperson who hasn't studied the Constitution and isn't worried about the next case. I'm not worried about Bin Laden's case. I'm told you that. I'm not talking about Bin Laden's case. I'm talking about what we're saying, what we're establishing, and how it can be applied the next time by some other Yahoo. We like this. I like this president. Okay, most people may not. I love this president. Okay, I think this president is one of the best things that's happened to this country in a long time, and I expect better of him. And guess what? He is a lawyer. And Hillary Clinton's a lawyer, and both of them are some of the most respected lawyers. And Eric Holder, our Attorney General, is an excellent lawyer. Okay? So these decisions weren't made by firemen and police officers who lost their brothers. Because if it was, and they were in charge, I would say, you did the right thing. I don't blame you, bro. I don't blame you, man. If you had to make that call, you made the right call. You lost 15 members of the fire department in your firehouse, and you shot him. I wouldn't convict him. Let's say that was going to happen. Let's say a fireman who lost 15 of his brothers was walking down the street on a vacation in Jamaica, right? And he said, "Holy cow, Osama bin Laden."
You would take him out.
I wouldn't expect that person to say, "Let's capture him and bring him back." I would expect that person to find the nearest coconut and crack it over his head and kill him. And I would acquit him if I was his juror.
But what does that tell you? That he's still dead?
It tells me that I'm talking about something different.
Now. I mean, you just said President Obama. He's a lawyer and everything. He gave the order. He apparently is okay with the fact that bin Laden's dead. So he must have sanctioned it.
That's what's disappointing, okay? That's what I'm talking about. When we talk about the country with a capital A, America, as a country, I would have hoped that since he was unarmed, apparently, and we had our 4 or 6 of our highly skilled SEALs, Navy SEALs there, that we could have extracted them and taken them out. If there was any risk, and I mean any risk, of harm to those individuals, then no, all the bets are off, and you got to do what you got to do. I'm not a child. I know there are some things that are necessary. I get that. I'm talking about what we're starting to hear is a very different story.
No, you're right about that. It's very hard for me to argue that. But I think his bed was made once those 3,000 people died. I mean, yes, I know there's been 10 years and the anger passed and all that.
Never.
But
there's no statute.
His own death warrant once he did that.
I get that. I understand that.
It could have been another 20 years, and you know what? He could have been executed, and that's that. I mean, there is, like
Matt,
you said, there's a statute of limitations.
I'm telling you right now.
Yes.
I'm walking on the Brooklyn Bridge, and I'm 95 years old, 45 years from now, and I see a 105-year-old Osama bin Laden taking a stroll. I'm throwing him over the bridge. There's no statute of limitations on it.
Yeah. You're on board.
I wouldn't be able to hold myself back.
I got you.
But that's the point. We're supposed to have these guys trained to say, listen, if you can take this guy safely, bring him back safely. Okay, that wasn't the order.
Oscar, I think it defies a common sense. See, I think that's one of the problems why people dislike the law, because it can be twisted or do it in such a way that it really goes against the will of the people. And so, really, the will of the people, for the most part, was he had to die. And I don't know what you want to call it, a suspension of law, or we went back to barbarism. But
that's right.
Whatever you want to call it. I mean, maybe we just need to admit to that. But
it was the will. That's right. And what I'm saying is,
the will of the people demanded that he died.
It was the will of the
law.
It was the will of the people to get black people out of Africa, pack them in a boat, and the ones that were able to survive had to work as slaves. Wait a minute.
You're right.
This is what I'm talking about. That was the will of the people.
Yeah.
It was the will of the people that all Jews should be rounded up, put into ghettos, then packed off into concentration camps. That was the will of the people. That was a duly elected.
I think that's a little bit different. We're talking one single individual that had a direct cause versus we're talking like a race and that kind of thing. I mean, I don't think it's the same context here.
Let's bring it back down. Let's bring it back down.
Okay.
It was the will of Jack Ruby to shoot Lee Harvey Oswald in the middle of the day without a trial for the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So that's okay.
It's a terrible thing to say, but I think a lot of people were probably happy Lee Harvey Oswald.
I think we missed the boat. I don't dispute it felt good. This is not what I'm talking about. Okay? Obviously, revenge is sweet. So is eating all you want. So is drinking until you're so drunk that you could drive your car off a road. So is having sex out of marriage. So is doing cocaine, right? Heroin feels great. Why? You ever ask a heroin addict, why do you take heroin? Why do I take heroin? Because have you taken heroin? Heroin feels great. Okay? There's lots of all of these different things are baser emotions that we're supposed to have the big society control by agreeing to a certain sort of conduct. That's all I'm saying. I would have liked to have seen. I think I got to tell you something. And then this will be it on that because there's no winning or losing this point. It's just how you feel.
I get it.
I can't help how I feel. I know that it's extraordinarily unpopular, even within my own house, even within my own family.
Well, what about the lawyer community? Let me ask you that. And you deal with a lot of lawyers. What do you think the consensus is?
It depends. Like anything else, a lot of lawyers are upset about it, depending on how they feel. And a lot of lawyers say, I don't care.
Is it 50-50, you think?
Look, a lot of lawyers believe in the death penalty. A lot of lawyers believe that people should be killed on a regular basis. A lot of lawyers feel that we should cut out habeas corpus. We have one of the greatest lawyers in the world on our Supreme Court, Antonin Scalia, who would have people being publicly executed on the street every day. He doesn't, he's one of the brightest men in the world, and he believes that the Constitution doesn't apply to women, that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment was only applied to male slaves. So, you can't go by lawyers. It depends on how you believe the Constitution applies. Antonin Scalia, who I have tremendous respect for, but at the same time don't understand many times, and I'm certainly no match for his legal mind, but he's of the opinion that if the framers didn't intend it in 1789, we shouldn't have it in 2011. So, there's no constitutional right at all that would give women rights, because when they meant all men were created equal, guess what? They meant all men were created equal. All right? Remember, when they wrote all men were created equal, women couldn't vote, women couldn't hold property, right? Women couldn't do any of the things that they do now. Okay? So, so lots of lawyers feel certain ways. I happen to believe that, the Constitution is a living document that needs to be applied depending on the circumstances of the particular time and prior precedent, of course, and that it should apply under all situations to this country at all times. I know it's idealistic, okay, but if you don't, but you know what I always say when people tell me that, oh, you're dreaming, oh, that's idealistic, oh, your head's in the clouds. If you don't have at least some people making that pull towards the ideal,
yes,
we're going to get right down.
That's true.
We're going to become Alaska, okay? We're going to go right down to, some of those places that I wouldn't want to live, even within our own country. I shouldn't say that because there's a lot of good people in Alaska, but you know what I'm talking about.
No, I definitely agree with that. There is the idealism, so you want it to be a magnet. Just like I can be very, tough, not, I don't take the middle ground lots of times, mainly because I know the middle ground will eventually happen anyway. So I have to be the force for the fight, if that makes any sense.
Right. And I think, for example,
the idealism, so
just like for example,
what you're saying.
This is why the Tea Party is so popular.
Yeah.
Okay? Because the Tea Party polarizes. Okay? And they stay on message, and they're unbending, and they say, I don't care that this is right or wrong in a lot of people's minds. This is how we feel. These are the issues we insist upon.
Yes.
Okay? And people like finally, right? There's finally, there's a poll that I can go to, and there's other that I don't have to be, reduced in my extremism. Okay? So the people who disagree with those positions, like me, say that's dangerous, right? I think the Tea Party is dangerous because I completely disagree with their legal positions. They would think I'm dangerous because I would be so stupid as to bring back the most hated man in the world and try him in a court of law and spend all this money and give him all those goddamn rights and let him have his goddamn lawyer and let him have his goddamn, protection. Yeah. And, they think that's dangerous. And it probably could be. It could expose us to risk. Okay, but at the same time, I'm going to just wave the flag and this is going to be it.
Okay.
I think there would have been no greater proof of what America means to have brought him back, tried him, and then executed him if the death penalty applied. I'm against the death penalty, but the law's on the books. Okay? So I think the world would have learned a lot, and the world would have said, we mean this. We don't just say it. Okay? We don't just put it out there to tell you how to live your life. It's not do as I say, not as I do. It's look what we did. Okay? How you like me now? Okay? You had 8 years of a guy who thought that we have a preemptive right to invade countries without a threat. That was the Bush doctrine.
Yeah.
Okay? We have a preemptive right to go into a country if we feel they're a danger to us. Okay? I would have liked the Obama doctrine to have been the Constitution applies to this country, even abroad. And we're going to show you, we're going to take the guy that we hate the most in the world and give him the same rights that everybody else gives. And I got to tell you, I think that would have been a tremendous message to the world. And I think we passed up a tremendous opportunity to put our money where our mouth is in a way that we will never get again. And it was a lost opportunity. Yes, it was a wonderful opportunity to get rid of Most Wanted #1, for sure. But at the same time, I think the lesson that we could have given would have lasted a lot longer to the benefit of America for perhaps literally centuries. And that's it. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
I get the other side. But that's my view. And I think we lost a good opportunity there to put our money where our mouth is. That's it.
I just figure that the message being sent, it's true. That is one message that absolutely did get lost. I mean, it's hard for me to disagree. But I think I have to believe they weighed the two messages. Do we want to do the idealism, or do we want to send a message to the world that if you pull this shit again, you're going to die? So I think that's the other message that was sent.
He would have died?
No.
He would have died.
No. To any other dictator or anybody else that wants to plot to attack the U.S. again. Whoever that
let me ask you a question.
Right necessarily.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think there are countries that thought W was a war criminal?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Therefore, they would be right to come in the night, into Washington, D.C., break into the White House, and execute our president. And all we'd be able to say is, well, you know what? That's their constitution. That's their law. Yeah. They thought they were right. So, oh well. So it's no different. Yeah, he's not a leader, but he's a leader of a group. We didn't give him a trial. We executed him. Again, we think it's right. I get it. I get that. All I'm saying is, under the scenario that you people are describing, that on the other side, what if this new guy who got elected in Canada thinks that Obama's a war criminal? I mean, this is what laws are for. This is why we all agree to abide by certain rules so that people don't do things to us that we would do to them. That's all. We're just saying we can't. I get it. That could never happen here.
I think the price of idealism sometimes can be very, very high. And
it can be.
I know for a fact, outside of this bin Laden issue, I mean, when I do business, when I'm with real estate and I deal with the lower to mid-income people, and you do try to do the right. I know I try to do the right thing and stuff like that. But, the price of idealism can be very, very high.
Wait a second. I'm sorry, again, I shouldn't cut you off.
No, I'm just saying that, trying to do the right thing. I know
agree.
It makes it wrong, and I'll be the first one to admit it. Okay, that makes me a bad guy. But I
disagree with you. I disagree with you because I often agree, and I often advise my clients, no good deed, goes unpunished. I get that.
Oh, okay.
But what do? You evict them. You don't go and burn their house down. You get a warrant, you serve it on them, and you say, I'm not giving you any chances outside the law. Hey, sorry, pal, I'm entitled to evict you on 72 hours notice. You ain't getting 73. Okay?
Oscar, we do that. Unfortunately, well, all I can say, I don't want to, we've already passed our time. We can probably go on.
We're way past. I do have to go. I have to go speak at a high school tonight, too. I'm going to be all fired up. I'm going to tell them, I can't even imagine what I'm going to say.
Tell them it's all my fault for bringing this as a topic for our show.
I'm going to end up probably getting arrested tonight. I don't even...
You're still my friend, even though we disagree a little bit.
So let's just wrap that up, because you're right. It is getting late. We're getting off topic. We finished strong.
Yeah. It's just something to think about, guys.
It is. It is. I posted a blog. I'm going to put a blog about this too, a written blog, so I can really get hated. But I posted up on Facebook at the end of that comment. One last thing, and this will really be it. And I want you to come onto the website, courtroomstrategy.com, join it, then unjoin it. It'll feel great. Follow us on Facebook, then defriend us when you hate what you hear. It's going to be a good feeling.
It's going to be that way. We will respect your opinion. I still will.
My friend Eileen put up a good quote, which I copied, which is, I mourn the loss of thousands of lives, but will not rejoice in the death of one, even that of mine enemy.
Wow.
And that was Martin Luther King. So, another idealist, another person who didn't waver,
and got him killed,
and who said,
got himself killed,
and paid the price, but changed the world. That's true. And
hard to argue with that.
Yeah, and that was if you listen to his "I Have a Dream" speech is the most famous, but my favorite speech of Dr. King is the one the night before he died, where he predicted his own death, where he knew it was coming, and he said, I may not get there with you, but we as a people will surely get there, because I have been to the mountain and I have seen the other side. Okay, so it's a big price to pay, but if some people don't pay it every now and again, nothing changes. So
but that's what makes Oscar a great defense attorney, and that's why he's on board on our team. All right, he defends the little guys no matter what.
I could even defend bin Laden. I would not have, by the way, but I guess. You know what? If the fee was right, who knows?
Yeah, your wife probably would have disowned you if you did.
I would not have. That would have been that's a tough call. That's a tough call.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much, Oscar. And this episode went long, but we hope you understand. And I guess we didn't come to any resolution, but we hope you at least got some entertainment out of this. All right.
And we got a soapbox.
Right,
have a good night.
Exactly. All right. We'll see you in our next episode. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.